Hey everyone, I'm gonna try and make this a somewhat quick video. So I played a tournament for the last 3 days, every day, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Monday was a 34-person locals, 32-person locals, can't remember. Then the PPG case tournament, which had a good number of players, I don't know the exact amount again, on Sunday, and then the Ultimate Cup on Saturday. I went X2, X2, X2 in all three tournaments, which I wasn't very happy with. The Ultimate Cup, it was completely my fault. For the PPG tournament, also completely my fault. And for the online locals for Eagle X, it was also partially my fault. I think that I could have definitely played the deck better than what I was. And even with all the hours I've put into the deck, there's still sometimes mistakes that I make, especially against matchups that I don't know as well. This deck was built primarily for dealing with the meta, like Nume, like Magna X. And I ran into a total of 1 Magna X and 1 Nume in the course of all three of these tournaments, which is unlucky and unfortunate. But also at the same time, I think that if the deck can't handle a diverse meta, which we're currently in right now, it's rough. So starting right here and right now, I'm going to say I'm going to be putting the deck down for a little bit. Now, that sounds like doomer news. It sounds like bad news. It's not, I promise you, and we'll go over what's going on in a second. We're not going to do card by card. The previous video, I think, will elucidate you guys on that enough, but I do want to kind of go over the engine as a whole and the cards that I kind of think are important. First and foremost, the Dark Master stuff. These cards are so good. They're so strong and impactful, and the toolbox they provide for dealing with different things in the meta, I think, are very good. The Digital Evolution is very powerful, and the 5s are able to do so much. However, big however, these 5s are so fragile. They're level 5s, which are so much easier to get rid of than 6s. There's so many cards that just say, get rid of level 5 in some way, shape, or form, which is such a shame. Second, they fall into the 6k DP threshold, which is the easiest threshold to get rid of in the game right now. Anything 6k and below is nothing. They're trash. 7k at least puts you to a point where only some of the best decks can get rid of you really early on. And then 8k, I think, insulates you from most turn 1 plays. 6k, however, is so easy to get rid of, even just tangentially with things like a Crimson Blaze are able to just completely destroy your game plan. And you're also fragile with a lot of floodgates. A lot of people are playing floodgates that do just hit you right now, like Pillamon, like Crimson Blaze. Things like that really just put a hamper on your overarching game plan, which is devastating. If you guys find ways to cheat these cards out for cheap, like with Zwart, they're some of the most powerful things I think you could be doing in this game. And I mean that genuinely from the bottom of my heart. However, I think in the current moment in time, I think that they're a little weak. Getting a turn to level 6, a lot of decks can do right now. This one just requires the least amount of effort to do it, as well as gets, I think, the most amount of value out of it. Keeping that in mind going forward, I think this card is a really good engine for things in general. Onto some of our tech level 5s, the Raiji and the Edda. These cards were fantastic. Throughout all of the tournaments, these cards won me games, hands down. Edamon, I think, is the most powerful card we have in the entire deck for making our ace plays actually viable. And then Raiji is insane in the matchups where Edamon isn't good. Being able to hit a rookie with this, so that way stack decks can't push out their level 5 stack or level 4 stack or even level 6 stack without having to worry about a powerful ace really taking advantage of that, with like mine with the Valk ace, with even just passing them to like 1 memory because of the Raiji, and then stealing back turns, that way their guy has to stay in racing, or that it's now out and available for us to actually interact with on a meaningful level. It's super good, and it also protects us a lot with its stopping us from getting deleted effect, which came up multiple times in every tournament that I was in. I'm gonna bump this up to 3 for sure. I think 3 and 2 I think is the most fantastic thing to do here. And I really cannot complain about these cards in the slice. I think they were fantastic for what we wanted them to be. Up next, we've got like the aces. These are just going to be like stand-ins for the aces. Melgo was fantastic in the tournament. Valkyrie Ace was insane. I won 2. Vikemon was so powerful. Mega Gargo had its moments to shine, and I never, ever missed Grand Kuwagamon. Not a single time was I like, man, I wish I had a Grand Kuwagamon here. However, I think that by playing with aces in particular in this deck, I think that you're a lot more fragile because you're relying on your level 5s to be alive rather than relying on your level 6s to make use of the powerful Omnimons, which obviously means there are two different paths you can kind of take in the deck. You can go for the less powerful, in my opinion, but more consistent plays with the Omnimons, so that way you can try and fight for board using their powerful effects. Or you can go for the less consistent, but much stronger plays that the aces provide you. They both are exceptionally good. I prefer the ace playstyle personally, but I understand players who want to stick with the more Omnimon variant. Next up, Ultimate Chaosmon. I ended up losing a game because I didn't trust Ultimate Chaosmon to win it for me. This card is so exceptionally strong, and the Mega Digimon Assembly is such a great tool for cheating it out. I ended up losing my first round in the Ultimate Cup at, I was 3-0, I lost my first one to Yellow Vaccine because I didn't go into the Ultimate Chaosmon because I was like, oh, whatever. I had second guessed myself. And while yes, the time rules were changed for that tournament at a last minute notice during round 1 because they had messed up in app and had made it so that way ties could not be done. And they ended up using the World's way of handling tiebreakers, which is it goes off of security, and then if security is tied, it goes off of Carson deck, I think, and then it goes off by Digimon Infield, and then it goes off by the last person who had security checked, which is super unfortunate. I think it caused me to unironically misplay, but I think that everyone was under the effect of those rule changes, and so I should have tried and adjusted a little bit better handling those so that way I didn't misplay. But this card is exceptionally good. The problem with it is I think it plays into a lot of the weaknesses the deck already has, which is things like Source Strip, which is things like the Digivolve, which is things like bottom decking. I bet not bottom decking, but yeah, Source Stripping and Digivolution really hurt this card a lot because you can get rid of your aces, and if you can't partition, then this guy's just a 16k beat stick with one check, and that feels really bad. However, he can just deal 4 checks, and like against a SecCon matchup I had, it just won me the game by itself. It was so exceptionally powerful. Onto the other level 7, Apocalypse. Every time I want to remove this card, I remember again how good it is, and it'll just win me a game by itself, and it feels fantastic. I would not take this card out, especially because in the next set it just gets even better, but we'll get to that. So good, such a good card. I ended up, fun story from the Ultimate Cup actually. I ended up in the Numemon matchup, just Digivolving for this for 6 on top of a machine, and I milled 2 for 4 turns in a row without having a single mega in the back because I had bricked up, and it just won me the game because I eventually just milled my opponent out after I started to get my engine online, and they just couldn't out the Apocalypse, which I think was hilarious. Psychomon and Jakuri. This is kind of where we start getting a little bit more doomer about the deck. One, I don't think these cards actually help enough for us in the Demon Lord matchup, but 2, a really big problem in the current format is the fact that we didn't run into a single Demon Lord deck in all 3 of our tournaments. In all 3 of the tournaments, we ran into one Numemon, and 1 deck that played Magna X. Not even the main Magna X variant either, the Yellow Vaccine variant of the deck, which we only lost to because we misplayed, but still, nonetheless. I think that right now the format is very rough, in the sense that there's a lot of diversity going on, which isn't a bad thing for the health of the game, but I think it's a bad thing for decks like this that really try to make use of very tight-knit metas, where against Nume, against Magna, we will decimate. I think that this deck can easily take out those hyper meta decks just because of the type of way that you end up playing. Problem is, I think a lot of rogue decks really take advantage of us. I ended up losing to a Ragnarward list. I ended up losing to a Phoenixmon list, all because they all have great ways making use of things like Crimson Blaze or just ways to remove level 5s really easily, which is super unfortunate. And I think that the deck itself, you take it to a tournament and you win a couple games, I think you're set. I think once you get like 4 rounds in, you're more than likely going to be running into decks that are primarily meta for the remainder of the tournament, which is what you're built to be. Problem is those first 4 rounds are really difficult to kind of get by because you're not guaranteed to run into meta. For the Ultimate Cup, my first 3 rounds, my opponent didn't show up, which is a shame. I really wanted to play the game. Second round was Imperial, which is a horrible matchup for us, but luckily my opponent did not know what my deck does. A lot of people don't know what this deck does, and I think that's a big benefit for it. Round 3 was against Nume, which wasn't close. It was a great match against a good guy that I know. But Nuemon just has a really hard time against this deck. No shame on his play at all. It's just a really difficult matchup. And then against Magnet X I threw, and then we went against a rough matchup being Mirage. Why is Mirage a rough matchup? Because it plays into the same problem that Imperial has, which is source stripping. Any deck that can source strip us really does decimate us. And then the benefit that Mirage has is that most of their in-archetype engine stuff will want to bounce us. The Zudomon aces, I ended up losing games 1 and 3, and over the course of both of those games, my opponent played 8 Zudomon aces, 4 and 4 in both games, and it just felt so disheartening. So I would definitely remove these cards. I think that trying to tech in for a bad matchup in the current moment in time probably isn't worth it, because you can't even guarantee that you'll run into that bad matchup, which in some ways is a good thing and in some ways a bad thing. Now, going on to, I think, the main reason why I'm going to be putting the deck down for a little bit. The most powerful card in the deck, as well as the one that, if you don't see it, you do tend to lose in rough matchups. Omnimon Zord. This card is insanely powerful. I think it is one of the most insane tempo plays and insane value plays that any deck in the current format can do, as well as any deck in some of the upcoming formats can do. I think it puts us up there with some insane power moves. The problem is if you don't see this card and you're against a rogue matchup, a matchup that you don't know very well, or a matchup that counters you pretty hard, you're going to lose the game. And there's not much you can do about it. And it feels really bad. And it's one of the few times where I went 3 rounds without finding an Omnimon Zord. I think I'd searched top 20 cards for the first 2 games, and then the first 2 rounds, but in both games that I ended up losing. And then for the 3rd round that I ended up not seeing the Omnimon Zord in a row, 3 of the 4 of them were insecurity. And that just sometimes happens. And that's just the volatility of card games. One of the things I really dislike in decks is inconsistency. And if you're consistently needing to find this single copy of a card in order to make your game plan function in some capacity, it feels kind of bad. And I know that's just hindsight bias, and I know that's just the fact that it happened very recently, that I feel kind of bummed about it. But nonetheless, I still kind of feel bummed by it. And I don't think that can change my mind. Enough dooming, though. Let's talk about the positives. First and foremost, don't get me wrong. I am currently talking down this deck right now. However, keep in mind, this is one of the most fun decks, as well as one of the most skill-intensive decks I've been able to play in the Digimon card game. Period. Full stop. Ever. I think this deck, if you pick it up, is not too expensive, which is fantastic. It has a great game. In fact, I would say it's favored into most meta decks currently. And it's just fun. It's so much fun. It's so skill intensive. Having to know what megas to go into, what aces to go into, what inheritables you should play around, when you should push up, when you should push, leave it in back, when you leave a level 6 in back, when you should hatch, when you should use your tamers, when you should pop certain Digimon, when you should Apocalypse, when you should Ultimate Chaosmon. It feels fantastic playing this deck, and it's so rewarding, and it's so just, it's like a big knowledge check. And you're a toolbox. And you just gotta look for the pieces that you need in this specific moment. And you're going to find them 9 out of 10 times because you search so much. And it feels so good. So don't take me shitting on the deck right now to be a condemnation over what the deck is, at least in my mind, capable of. I think this deck is capable of doing so much. Now, onto some more positive stuff. Well, yes, I did say I'm putting the deck down. I will. I think, at least until the current format ends, EX6, I'm going to be putting this deck down so that way I can start looking towards the future. Next month, BT17 will come out, and with it, a ton of cards. Not only cards that are new, but also cards that support this deck. Imperial Dramon Paladin mode, the new Dark Master stuff that lets us recycle the Apocalypse as well as get some more aggression out. All of which, fantastic updates to this deck that make our blue and green Dark Masters, as well as our Vikemon and Grand Quaggas and Mega Gargos, insane threats that your opponent can no longer swing into, even if you don't have a level 5 on field, which is fantastic. as well as looking even further into the future, past BT17. As the game goes on, they've obviously shown that they're okay with printing level 7 aces. And as they print more and more level 7 aces, please keep in mind, guys, these guys can only digivolve into white Digimon on your turn. On your opponent's turn, it is fair game. Any black ace, or any Digimon, any ace that digivolves from a black Digimon can digivolve onto this guy, whether they're a white card or not. And that goes for the same, any purple, blue, green, or black ace, level 7, from here on going forward, can be slotted into this deck and is searchable. This deck has, I think, the highest capability of making use of future cards of any deck in the current format, aside from maybe Luga or some other like archetypal deck. But that's the positive of the deck. Now let's talk about something arguably more important. Me. Right now, I started playing the game in BT10, and the first deck I picked up was Melga, and I had a really good time with it. I took it to some local success, and I had a great time. And as the game kind of progressed, I tried out more and more decks. I ended up sticking to Hunters for a little bit, and that was my favorite deck for a while, before finally, I think I started actually playing the game competitively with Numemon. I was very happy with the Numemon list that I made. I made a lot of predictions of Numemon that ended up being right, which is where a lot of you guys ended up seeing me from, for those of you who remembered, and for those of you who weren't there around those times, thank you again for showing up. As well as Numemon, I ended up taking to my second or third Ultimate Cup and getting top 8 and winning this very pretty card and having a great time with it. However, right now I have 3 decks available to me. My Galaxy Cope deck, which I think can get good in the future, my Dark Masters control list, and Numemon. And while I have a great time with all 3 of these decks, I think it's time for me to kind of start expanding a little bit further. And so I'm going to start testing with BT17. I know what deck I want to play right now. I'm thinking about going a little bit back to my roots. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. But I'm not going to say it out loud yet, because maybe I'll change my mind. I'm very excited for it, and I'm very excited to show you guys kind of how things will be going in the future. Don't expect a video next week. I'm probably going to be taking a small break. But post that, I'll be back. I promise. I promise, I promise, I promise. 2 final things. 1, I want to thank you guys. I read all the comments. I listen to everything kind of going on. I try my best to respond to some of them, for sure. Sometimes I'm a little hazy. But I genuinely appreciate all of the feedback you guys leave, as well as the great friends that I've ended up meeting in just the servers I hang out in and just the community in general. So like big shout out to people like Walter, to like Michael, to Spartan, to like Fire. Gosh, there's so many people that have just, I think, helped with deck building, testing, being just fun people to play the game with in general, or inviting me to online tournaments. And I wanted to make sure that you all know that I genuinely appreciate it. As well as there are no more tournaments for me in this month, I don't believe. But next month, I will be taking a deck, and my goal isn't to test out a deck that I think can do good. It's to take a deck that I know will do good, and it will be me hopefully showing off once again that I can compete. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to put up the best showing with this deck here, but I hope that you guys stick around, and I hope I can show you guys that I am somewhat okay at this game. Thank you all for watching. I genuinely appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you all have a great day.